Welcome to the Sharp Way Show. So happy to have you with me this evening. It's a little bit past 7 p.m. on the East Coast, which means, yep, you got to listen to me. You got to hear me. You got to look at my mug. That's kind of the rules, but that's okay. It is going to be an amazing show, and you know it is because, well, basically every show we do is awesome. So I'm very glad that you are here, but I am lucky today. I'm lucky that I have with me someone who has literally taken the last 10 years to try his damnedest to change his state. And I respect it because I've tried, but not for 10 years yet. So he's got me beat on that. He has run for Congress. He has run for governor of Kentucky. He's been trying to make changes. And he calls himself the Peace Democrat, is what I will call him. The man right now running for governor of Kentucky for 2023, Jeff Young. How are you, sir?
Hi, fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and what I love about maybe not love, maybe that's the wrong answer. What I am intrigued by, maybe is better. Maybe that's the thing, is that you have been doing this for a while. You've run for office, if I remember right, please tell me if I'm wrong here, every 2 years since 2012. Is that true?
That's true, and also for governor in 2015 and 2019. Kentucky has governor elections in odd years.
Oh, okay.
So gotcha. I've been running like crazy for 10 years.
So for you running so much, clearly that's got to be strain on you, obviously. I mean, I know running is tough. It's got to be strain on you, but you've been doing it for 10 years. In the past, you weren't growing that much, but now this recently, you've kind of had a kick up recently. Why do you think recently there's been a kind of a renaissance, if that makes any sense, something where people have started to notice you?
Well, I actually won a primary for the first time ever this year in May 2022. Oh. I won the Democratic primary for the U.S. House of Representatives in Kentucky's 6th Congressional District, which is Lexington and kind of shading toward eastern Kentucky.
Got it.
Finally,
and that was your big thing.
The first time ever. Couldn't win the general election against the reactionary Republican incumbent.
So, but let me walk down that road, right? The establishment has been against you literally for a decade, right? And even Democrats, the Democratic establishment is against you. They don't like you at all. Why? Or why not?
They can't control me. They figured out, I ran as a Green for the Kentucky State House Green Party in 2012. Nobody noticed me. I had no chance of winning, but I learned how to do it, 2014, the first time I tried to run in a Democratic primary for the U.S. House of Representatives. I had one equally unknown opponent, 2014, and they, we had.
Hold on, you're saying that they can't control you, right? So
they can't control me. Yeah, they could.
Let me walk on that road if I could. You've run as a Democrat, you've run as a Republican, you've run as a Green. And I think what they see is that your policies don't overlap with their policy. Not even policy, their communication even. I mean, if you even count them having policies, their communication doesn't overlap with your communication. I feel it's almost as if you're fighting the establishment no matter who you run with. Am I reading you right or no?
I don't think that's wrong. No, I think that's one way to look at it. But I think the issue of control, they want a standard run-of-the-mill establishment Democrat that they can control. They can tell what to do. And
well, you have a fan here. Thomas says never give up. So you've got at least one fan for sure. You got somebody. So that's good.
I don't give up. No. I may change direction a little bit, but I'm not giving up.
Speaking of direction, some of the things that you talk about are very libertarian.
Okay.
And some of the things aren't, right there. You go both sides, right, in this regard. And one of them that you bring up, which I think is universal, is I guess it is one of your biggest issue is preventing World War III. That's a big deal for you. And it makes sense, but almost no one's talking about it. You're like the only guy talking about it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So this year, there's an independent candidate in New York running against Chuck Schumer. Her name is Diane Sayer.
I
And
know
she was
very well. We've been together on many things. Yep.
okay, great. She was talking about avoiding nuclear war. There was one, I think, a Green Party person, Matthew Ho in North Carolina, running for
Absolutely.
Senate. He was talking about, but other than those, the three of us, you're right. Nobody talks about preventing World War III.
Yes, and you've gone further enough that people have asked you, what are we going to do? And your words, if I remember right, were back off. That was your words, back off. So that feels like, right, and people get scared when they hear that, because what they hear, you didn't say it, but what they hear is, oh, now we want to be isolationists and border off the wall and make sure nobody comes over and build up. That's what everyone, I think, hears when they hear back off.
Okay,
but you don't
no,
mean that, do you?
I'm not talking about building a wall at all. What's happening now, when we're not backing off, where we're heavily involved in a proxy war against Russia in Ukraine right now, that could go, that could escalate at any moment.
Sure.
What we're doing, we're forcing Russia and China and many other countries in the world to build a wall against us.
You've said that. You literally said that our actions have actually made Russia and China allies now.
Oh, it's definitely contributed to the strength of their alliance. Yeah. They realize they're facing the same threat.
I want to show, if I could, you did a commercial, and I want to show this commercial. This commercial I thought was funny because you just came right out and just very forward. This is from, by the way, if you want to watch this commercial, you can head over to his website, and his website is young4ky.com. If you want to check this out, it is there. Once you click over to his YouTube page. This comes from his YouTube page.
My name is Jeff Young, and I approve.
Oh, hold on. Let me make sure I do it right. Hold on. Let me just make sure I got it right here before I mess this up. I want to make sure I do it exactly the way to make sure it is correct so that we get the whole thing. Here we go.
My name is Jeff Young, and I approve this message.
In 1973, 12 OPEC countries stopped selling oil to our country. Gas prices quadrupled.
This year, idiots in both parties started an economic war against Russia, and we're losing that war. Now they're threatening China. If 100 countries were to stop selling us everything, our economy would collapse in a week. We need to stop all of our wars right now and rebuild America.
Now, what I liked about that was two things. First of all, I love that you called them idiots. I mean, that's amazing. That part I love, so just that part. But there's something else.
Maybe one reason why they don't like me.
That could be, yes. But you actually didn't go down the road right then and say nuclear war. What your concern was, which I haven't heard people say this, which is why I'm going to bring this up. This is special to me. You're saying that there will eventually be counter sanctions against us, and that those counter sanctions against us that will eventually come are going to crush our economy till we wind up dying in poverty.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, you just summed it up quite well.
Oh, I'm doing good.
Our whole economic strategy against Russia since February of 2022 has been to try to sanction them. And the form these sanctions take is we will not buy Russian energy, oil, natural gas. We're just not going to buy it. And because it provides money for the Russian government to continue their war. Well, that's stupid.
Okay.
You can't stop a huge natural resource rich country like Russia from selling its energy.
Yeah.
Other countries want it, need it, and if they can't sell it to the West, they have plenty of other customers.
Aren't they selling it to India and China now?
That's right, exactly. They're building new pipelines right now for natural gas to go to India and China, and they're liquefying it. They can sell it to any country in the world by ship. It's ridiculous. You cannot, and so the Russian people are not suffering. They have pretty low inflation rate. The ruble is very strong. We tried to, make the ruble crash.
Right, I remember that.
It went down for a while, and then Russia did some things. They required European energy companies to pay for natural gas in rubles.
Right.
And that pretty much saved the ruble.
Right.
And now it's stronger than it was.
Because the ruble had demand now to pay for their energy. I got it. Okay.
Yeah, it hasn't, hasn't gone way up out of sight.
Let me touch an emotional aspect on this, Jeff, right? Don't we want to somehow be mad at the Russians for the invasion, right? Don't Americans want to say, no, you can't invade Ukraine. It's a bad thing. Don't do it. You're aggressive and you're mean. And don't we, as emotional Americans, don't we want to say, bad Russia? Isn't that what we want to do?
I don't think the American people think that way, actually. I mean, of course some do, but I think that's been manipulated over a long period of time.
Okay.
The Soviet Union, anti-communism has been the norm in this country since 1917, 1918.
So you think that most of this has been kind of teed up for us?
Yeah.
And the average American doesn't care that much, wouldn't care normally much, but we've been teed up for us.
My team, during the last election for the U.S. House, my people were going door to door and talking to people. Nobody wanted to hear about Ukraine. People were sick of that issue. It wasn't going so well. And people, wanted to hear about inflation. And in Kentucky, the abortion issue was incredibly hot. We can talk about that later. But people in general, Americans are not that interested in foreign policy.
Let me stay on that for a second, because you've said something also that is, of course, controversial, but I get it. You said abolish the CIA. You have called the CIA, if I get you right, please tell me if I'm misquoting you, the worst terrorist organization in the world today. Is that a correct quote?
Precisely correct.
There we go. Okay. So I'm not going to fight you too much on that, because libertarians tend to agree with that, but that still is a very controversial statement. And a lot of people love the CIA. They think it's protecting us, right? That's the thought.
They're mistaken. It was founded in 1947. Ever since then, it has been a rogue organization. They have been smuggling addictive drugs for decades into the United States in order to, increase the amount of money they have to overthrow other governments. Their main purpose is to overthrow governments that the capitalist class wants overthrown. And
Got it.
Often democracies. The people who are overthrowing are very often elected presidents or leaders. And that's the main job of the CIA, to cause chaos in the world.
Got it.
They also support terrorists.
Yes, and arm them.
And they're currently actually directing the Ukrainian army.
So I think Sam is on your side. Sam says, very true that foreign policy is low on voter priority.
Yeah.
I think Sam's right on that. I think you're totally right on that. That isn't the key piece to what people think. They care about their own household, right?
Yeah, but that's why I made that ad and other, postcards and things talking about how sanctions are backfiring against us, because that affects everybody in this country. If inflation goes through the roof, the whole economy is going to collapse, except for
100%.
Various industries that produce things for export. They'll keep running because they'll be able to export these products, but we'll become a third world country unless we just abandon and reverse all of these counterproductive sanctions that we've been
So
imposing.
let me move to that piece too, because well, before I go there, for those of you who care about who do care about foreign policy, do me a favor and support my sponsors, theadvocates.org. Head over to theadvocates.org and click, if you would, on the single issue surveys. And there is literally a survey on national security and foreign policy. There's actually a survey there. If you want to go there, you can actually take it. And I'm going to show you a picture of it right now so you know that I'm not making that up. There are many single issue surveys, but here's one of them: national security and foreign policy. Underneath that's money, government debt, money and monetary policy. And I know right now, Mr. Clark is jumping a bit for grab that. So yes, but anyway, so yes, right now you can take any of those. Why would I want you to do that? Why does this matter to me? Because they're my sponsor, right? And if you go there, take it. It's free. It makes them happy. It makes me happy. Support the show by heading over to theadvocates.org and taking the National Security and Foreign Policy Survey and see how much you care about it. That would be awesome. I'd appreciate you doing that. So I know that you've also said the next thing, if I could, which is you've actually said to end all sanctions, but not only on countries. You've said end all sanctions on individuals. This is a special thing, right? I think we feel, again, I'm talking emotional because, as you know, politics is emotional.
Yes.
And we kind of want to punish the bad guy. And it feels like, well, that guy's a bad guy. Let's sanction him, right? He's the evil Chinese oligarch or Russian oligarch. Let's go get him. Is this going to be a problem? Are we going to go ahead, please?
Not the bad guys. What if they're really simply acting in the best interests of the people of their country? And what if they're less aggressive than our bad guys? You know, even Donald Trump said plenty of bad guys in America, or something like that. Plenty of killers.
Yes, that's right. Killers, right? Yes, that's right. Yes, I remember that.
Here. So I would say that in general, since the end of World War II, around 1945, the United States has been the most aggressive, violent, invasive country in the world. We've been almost constantly at war.
It's true.
Sometimes several countries at once.
Well, hold on. I have a trivia question for my audience, and you might know this. Anyone know the last time the United States declared war? 1942. It's the last time we declared war. We declared war against Germany's allies, Bulgaria, Hungary, and Romania. We never declared war against Finland.
Japan bombed Pearl Harbor. Let's see.
41.
December 7th, 1941.
Yep, in 41.
Yesterday was the anniversary of that.
That's correct.
And
we declared war on Japan.
Right.
Then Germany declared war on us.
Which was stupid. Why did
correct.
But they did.
And then we declared war on Germany's allies.
That's right.
That's how that worked.
So
a little trivia question, but
you're right. That's the last time there was an official declaration of war.
But to your point, we've been at war for the past 80 years. But keep going. I'm sorry, I interrupted. Please continue.
Well, a country that is constantly at war is eventually going to be defeated economically, if not militarily. Right now, we're losing in Ukraine. If we were to attempt to escalate against China around Taiwan in the Pacific, we would lose that too, because it's near their border. Ukraine is right next to Russia, and I don't see how we can expect to win if they're right there. They can bring in unlimited troops and supplies, and their economy can produce all the weapons they need. And we have to ship everything half a world away.
So when you're saying end sanctions, do you even mean ending sanctions like countries like, say, North Korea or Cuba, like that also?
Yeah. Oh, for sure, Cuba. For decades, the United Nations has a vote every year. And the U.S. sanctions against Cuba, there's like 200 countries against, and 2 or 3 who say, yeah, the sanctions, we should keep the sanctions.
Yep. Absolutely.
So
yes.
The entire world disagrees with us on Cuban sanctions. Those need
I
to,
agree with you. I think it's the exactly right answer, but I think a lot of people, again, there's an emotional piece of punishment, right? We feel like we want to punish. So
well,
yeah.
I don't think we have a right to punish anybody.
Ooh, I like that.
Has been so violent over so many decades that we have no right even to criticize other countries, to pretend that, oh, we're fighting with you because you have a bad human rights record. That's nonsense. Nobody
There we
has
go.
a worse human rights record than the United States if you include the CIA and all the things they've done.
Got it. So
Yeah.
Sam got the question right. Sam said World War II. You are right, Sam. Absolutely.
Right.
Alexander is teasing you, but he's right. Alexander says CIA, Central Invasion Agency.
Yeah.
So
there's a comedian, singer-songwriter, Dave Lippman, who calls it the Committee to Intervene Anywhere.
Oh, I like that. Very good. Very good. Pete, who always talks about finances, he says, how did Rome fall? Endless wars, greedy leaders, wasteful spending, unattainable debt. Sound familiar?
That is super accurate. Brilliant comment.
Absolutely. And he also brings up, Pete, as he always does, every show, by the way, every show, Pete brings up the national debt. Like every single show, he'll post it someplace in the comments.
That's
Yes.
a big number.
And I will read it out because I always
What is
do.
that, trillion?
31 trillion, 335 billion, 87,282,739.04.
Oh, well, it's more than 4 cents now.
Yeah, yes. And just us talking, it went up. That's correct. Yes, exactly right. The time that it took me to read that, it was inaccurate. That's correct. Yes, 100%. You're totally right. So let me walk down a bit more of a road because you've also added for something else I'd never heard before, which is you want to abolish AFRICOM.
Yeah.
And I would bet that at least 8 out of 10 people listening to this or watching this have no idea what AFRICOM is. And for those who don't know, there are many military commands across the world, U.S. military commands. One of them is Africa Command, United States commanding in Africa. It's like shows, where it controls the military fighting and spending and assets and such in the Africa region. It's actually, I'm pretty sure it's based out of Germany, the army, I think, based out of Germany, I think. But anyway, why AFRICOM of all the comms? Why that one?
Well, it's just one. I actually propose on my website platform that we should bring all of our troops home from everywhere. But
Okay.
AFRICOM is one continent where we're just carrying on the activities of the colonialists, the British, the French, Italian, the German, Belgians, in past, more than 100 years ago. It was colonialism, and that's totally exploitative. The purpose of colonialism and imperialism too is to get the resources out, maybe have things produced there and get cheap labor, and not to care about whether the countries develop economically or not. But China has a different attitude, a different approach. They have more of an investment win-win approach where they actually invest in projects that don't make a profit instantly. The short-term
Belt and Road Initiative, is that what it's called?
Belt and Road Initiative. So the road is the high-speed railroad, and the belt, I guess, is seaports and shipping. So they will come in and invest in a port facility. They'll hire local people to build it and to work there. And then everybody benefits because.
But hold on. So if we get rid of AFRICOM, are you saying that we should get rid of AFRICOM and then instead allow businesses to go in and to function like that, or just let the world be the world? What is the goal of getting rid of AFRICOM?
Well, it's primarily a force for violence.
Got it. Okay.
Special forces, they're drones flying
Yep.
around, firing missiles. And very often, AFRICOM is used to prop up unpopular dictators that are
Yes.
pro-U.S. corporations. So China does not go in there with a lot of weapons and troops.
Got it. Okay. I see your point.
If our multinational corporations can compete in any area, Europe, Africa, anywhere, that's fine. I have no objection to trade and international investment, but it needs to benefit the people who live there.
Okay.
China thinks about that and takes care of that question, and the United States is more interested in extracting and propping up oligarchs, you could call
well,
them.
Brian is saying that I'm wrong. Brian says, according to SCOTUS, I'm wrong. SCOTUS held that a resolution that Congress passes was effectively a declaration of war in Afghanistan. And Brian, what I would say is that's naming something after it's already done. Like they just did it and then said, well, we're just going to consider that war. That's like common law marriage. Well, you've been living together for 7 years, so I guess you're married. That's kind of what that is. Oh, you married?
Action. The war.
Oh, police action. Thank you. Yes.
1950 to 1953 it wasn't called a war. It was, later everybody says Korean War because it's easier to say.
Yep. But officially, you're right. It wasn't. So I think I just lost Jeff, but he'll come back on. When he comes back on, I'll bring him back on. But Brian, I want to say you are correct in what you're saying, and SCOTUS is wrong. So both is true. You are correct, and SCOTUS is wrong. I got you back, Jeff. Glad to have you back.
Yeah.
So Nazim says, wow, a Democrat on a libertarian podcast. Nazim, I've had many Democrats on this show. I just had one last night. I have everyone is open on the show. Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter at all. They are all welcome on the show. Happy to have them.
One of my libertarian positions is I want to legalize not just cannabis, but all drugs.
Yes, I saw that too. And in Kentucky, I am shocked by that. I don't think of Kentucky as being a state that would want to go there. I'm surprised you would push it there.
Well, the state, we have a legislature that is almost totally dominated, the Kentucky House and Senate, by Republicans.
Yep.
Because the Democratic Party over the last couple of decades has been so incompetent. They can't find anybody good to run. So we're not in the forefront of legalizing cannabis or anything else. But
you've said something which I like the way you've done it, right? You've said you want to legalize drugs. Most people, when they say that, they go, well, so we can tax it and make money. You don't say that. You say...
No, I agree with that too.
Yes, but that isn't what you focus on. You focus on harm reduction.
Yes, exactly right. So John Oliver in March of 2022 did a great segment called Harm Reduction. You can find it on the web, and it's really worth watching. It doesn't treat addicts as criminals. It treats addicts as somebody who needs some help, kicking their habit or switching, for example, switching from heroin to marijuana, which is not addictive.
Absolutely.
No, I don't think anybody really likes being an addict.
Agreed.
You're not free.
Yep.
You're controlled by this chemical and the need for it. So it helps people go into treatment. He shows a segment where there's this clinic where addicts can go in and get a medically safe amount of their drug, and they don't die, from the poison on the street. You buy a street drug, you have no idea what you're getting.
Yes.
So there's all this fentanyl and can kill you. So nobody has ever died in one of these clinics. And you can't say that about the general population. Kentucky
Not at all.
has a terrible problem with overdose deaths. We've had it for a long time.
These are deaths of despair. It's a problem. But I want to touch that piece. This show does not bring despair. This show brings a lot of positiveness. And if that you believe that, then do me a favor, click the like button right now. If you're watching this show and you're not in despair, I hope you're not, then click the like button right now. Like this show, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're watching on Twitter, whether you're watching on LinkedIn, wherever you're watching, click that like button. It does matter. That's how I get past all the algorithms that will always decide to push me away when I'm talking to cool people. So please click that like button. It does matter. Please do that. If you want to follow what Jeff is doing, you can follow him on young4ky.com or Twitter, Jeff Young 4KY. So I think we are, in many cases, we are kind of similar in a lot of our views here. However, there are some we're not. I know that you are someone who is a proponent for Medicare for all. That doesn't seem like it lands in line with the other things. Why Medicare for all?
It's incredibly cheaper. When you look at the cost to societies as a whole, our medical system is incredibly inefficient because, some 25% of it is just being raked off by the health insurance companies. So we're 25% efficient right from the get-go. Other countries negotiate with pharmaceutical corporations to lower drug prices. Other
so
countries
let me ask, in your world, hold on, in your world of Medicare for all, would there be in your world private insurance companies or private doctors also, or no?
Yeah, sure, there could be. Yeah.
So what you're actually asking for really is not really Medicare for all, but more like a public option.
No, it's Medicare for all. If you are a for-profit hospital or something, under the bill introduced by John Conyers for many years, the entities that would be part of the government-funded program would be nonprofits. Simply take the profit motive out of it. That would reduce costs dramatically.
So you think similar to like a VA system?
Yeah, but for everyone.
VA for all.
Medicare for all, expanded, improved. Yeah, whether you call it VA for all or whatever, it's a single payer system where the government is the single payer, and every entity is nonprofit. That was the simplest bill.
Are you worried, and maybe you're not, but are you worried that we might wind up creating a two-tiered system? And what I mean by that is I look in New York City where I live, and this may not affect you in Kentucky, so I'm not sure. I'm telling you what I know in my city. In New York City, most of the people who are wealthy or middle class or above or wealthy no longer go to any doctors that take insurance. They only go to private doctors. And they either have no insurance and just pay because they're wealthy. That's option one. Or option two, they have what they call a Cadillac plan, which is some type of plan that will reimburse a certain percentage when you go out of network, right? So maybe it pays 50% or whatever. It pays a chunk, and they get it because usually they either are an executive at a large company and they get the Cadillac system. So what winds up happening is many of the people who aren't wealthy, they almost always get second-tier doctors because the first-tier doctors go into the private market where they make more money. Are you worried that if you go to a VA for all, that will happen across the country?
I don't see a way to prevent that kind of two-tier thing. But the important thing is to get the vast majority of people covered by a large-scale system. The problem is people who have no insurance at all and who are not wealthy. They're really in trouble.
Got it.
Medical bankruptcy is unknown in other countries.
Sure, sure.
Nobody goes
Yep.
bankrupt because they get a disease or have an accident.
Mhm.
That's kind of barbaric.
I think
So
there are a lot of states have passed laws where you can't go bankrupt now from medical debt. I think that's been a thing now that they don't do that anymore in certain states. So I think I lost Jeff again, but that's okay. He'll come back. I'm sure he will. So yes, Shelley goes on to say, Larry has had more political parties on his show than there are about on the ballots. That's true, Shelley. You're correct. I keep doing that. Joel says, Larry has good guests on creating great conversations. I think we have to, right? What value is it if I just sit here and talk to everybody who's libertarian? That's no value on that at all. That's why I'm grabbing guys like Jeff to talk about stuff. Otherwise, what kind of conversation do we have? It's just me nodding my head and going, yeah, everybody's right. That's not helpful. Who learns from that?
just to finish off on healthcare,
Please.
I don't have a problem if rich people want to get Cadillac healthcare. That's okay. But my main priority is to get everybody insured at a system that doesn't drive them into bankruptcy or poverty.
Got it. Some of the people here, they're not happy with the VA. Brian says the VA system sucks. Just that I had to fight to get my proper medication again. Dave says, but government bureaucrats will be just as inefficient. Joel says, Medicare for all would save money. The government would deny claims. I'm not sure that part's true, Joel. I mean, the private sector denies claims too. So I think that I'm not too sure about, but you got some pushback on that one, Jeff.
That's fine. Pushback is fine.
So I've always been concerned when it comes to a Medicare for all is that there are, I think the Bernie side wants to basically abolish all private doctors and private insurance. That part scares me tremendously.
I've never heard that he wants to abolish them. Maybe. I mean, I haven't studied all of the plans that are out there. I don't see a reason to. If
I agree completely.
If
Yes.
the main system is covering 95% of the population and it's free, no huge co-pays, then it's fine. If the 5% wants
would
something.
you support more of a British model, which is, if I remember right, I could be off this, but I believe the British model is it's free at point of service, and the French model is the government reimburses either 70, 80, 90, or 100%, depending upon what you're getting, right? But they will get massive. The French model does massive reimbursement, and the British model, it's just free. Would either of them, do you care either way how that would work?
I don't know all the details, but all of the things you talked about sound better than what we have now.
Okay, I got it. So I then want to go to the second piece, which is, I guess, in a similar vein, which is you believe, if I remember right, you believe taxing the rich is good for the economy.
Yes.
Where people seem to disagree with that one. The rich do particularly, but they tend to disagree with that one. Walk me through that. How is taxing the rich going to help the economy?
Well, I'm going to sound like Bernie Sanders for a little bit.
Okay. It's okay. You are a Democrat. It's okay. You're supposed to. It's totally fine.
The level of income and wealth inequality that exists today is similar to the 1920s, before the Great Depression. Rich people, I don't know what they spend their money on. But they don't. Poor people, working people, middle class, if they get a raise, they're going to spend money on things they need, go right back into the economy, and support jobs throughout the country. Rich people, they may buy a yacht.
But isn't that still buying something? Isn't that still a good thing? Isn't the rich person who buys the yacht, right? Say I'm the poor person and I buy food for my family, right?
Yeah.
And the rich person buys a yacht. Well, isn't the yacht still part of the economy? And don't I now have to have maintenance people on the yacht paying jobs, and the captain of the ship and whoever washes and maintains the yacht? Aren't I providing jobs for all those people?
It's a smaller number.
Smaller number.
I got a bachelor's in economics from MIT way back when, and master's in agricultural economics at University of Kentucky here. And so there are capital intensive industries and labor intensive industries. And for example, weapons, highly capital intensive, relatively small number of jobs created. And
For building weapons.
The end product, yeah, building weapons, small number of jobs, because it's there. Each weapon is so expensive. It's a relatively small number of jobs that has a lower impact on employment than almost anything else.
Then why, if with that, then why? I mean, maybe I'm ignorant here, and I'm happy to be ignorant here. Why in the world would so many Congress people and senators want the military-industrial complex to be building stuff in their state? I mean, they go out of their way to get, oh, I want the tank tread built in my city, and I want the tank scope built in that city, and so we can move them to the other city to put them together in this city.
Yeah, it's a form of corruption. All of the money is coming from the federal government, and that has to be paid for either by just printing money, which inflates the currency, makes it worth less, or taxing people. And so you're funneling all of this money into an industry that produces very few jobs, and the product they make are often completely wasted. When you build a missile and shoot it off in Ukraine, who does that help? It's
well, let me go to what Sam says. Sam brings up a point. Sam says Corvette is made in America. Big screen TV made in China. Wouldn't a rich person buying a Corvette do more for the American economy than a poor person who's buying stuff that's all made in China? Right? Is that a valid point or no?
It depends. I mean, a lot of U.S. corporations have manufacturing facilities in China and other countries in the world. So that's you can't just answer that yes or no.
Okay.
There's a lot of talk about bringing jobs back to America, and I think if we can do that, that would be good.
Yes. They're teasing you with Corvette because Corvette's in Kentucky. That's why they're teasing you, right?
Sure. No, I have no problem with Corvette or the Corvette plant. It's fine. But
don't you worry about one thing, right?
What I've been against for virtually all my life, let's say 50 years now, is the massive overspending and waste in the military budget.
Yes.
So-called defense budget.
Yes. But hold on. On that one, you and I are completely in agreement, right? We're about ending the wars, ending the military-industrial complex. I'm still sitting on the tax the rich part. And the reason why I'm on that part is I see it in New York State. When we've raised taxes on the wealthy, when we've punished the wealthy, they pack up and they leave.
Okay.
They physically leave the state. We've lost in the past 3 years at least $20 to $30 billion in net worth in New York State. They pack up and they go to Florida, they go to Texas, they go to Tennessee.
Let them go.
But then who's going to pay the taxes then?
There are various levels of wealth. There's filthy rich, there's billionaires, and then there's a layer below that and below that, and what we have now.
So just punish the kind of rich?
Huh?
So just punish the kind of rich? Don't punish the very rich? Okay.
Yeah, there's the super duper rich. It's not. I don't think it's punishment. Who gets the most benefit from the institutions such as the legal system, the roads, the airports, everything that is built for public use? The rich benefit from that, as well as everybody else, or they often use those services even more. So what I put it in terms of paying their fair share. If you want to live in a civilized society, you have to care about whether the widow across town has enough to eat, or is able to get health.
I agree with you on that. I think we should care. I agree.
It's solidarity.
So why wouldn't we then, if we want to do that, why wouldn't we just say, as an example, make a insanely simple tax code, and it's just whatever the number is, 10%. I'm making that because of the tithe to church, right? So if we say 10% is the number, I'm making that number up. Everybody pays 10%. I don't care what you do with your money, whether you invest it, how you got it. It doesn't matter. There's no loopholes. There's no nothing.
Yeah.
Everybody pays 10%. Would that be a way of doing it, or no?
No, that's not bad. Because you said how you got it.
Yep.
You know, so right now we have a two-tiered tax system where
That's why I said that.
Unearned wealth is taxed less, a lower rate than earned income. So if we could get rid of that phenomenon, and then, but I still think, I really think there don't need to be any billionaires in the world.
No billionaires.
I don't think that's necessary.
So,
I think the world would be better, and this country would be better if there were no billionaires, and that this extreme level of income inequality were flattened a little bit or a lot.
well, I agree with the level of that. Yeah,
they end up controlling the Congress. They end up getting political power.
You're right.
Just because they're a billionaire, and you know, if they've got every congressperson coming to them and say, "Okay, what do you need? What can we do for you?"
Well, let me touch two pieces of that. So if we're going to make no billionaires, if that's our goal, right, is no billionaires, are we literally going to say, once you make X amount of money, we confiscate your cash? Is that how we do it?
I propose that, yeah.
And then what about if my value is not in cash? It's in, say, stock ownership or physical property. Do we confiscate that stock ownership and physical property?
Yes.
Then who gets it, right? Once,
I mean, you know, I don't expect it to pass tomorrow.
well, you're answering the question. It's totally fine. So we're going to go in and whatever, Jeff Bezos or whoever, we're going to say, hey, I want, you have so much stock value. You can't be a billionaire. We're going to take away whatever the percentage is, 20% of Amazon. It's the government's now.
Billionaire could choose which assets to divest.
Oh, they could choose.
Yeah, I mean, suppose, you know, this billionaire likes one particular company they own. They could keep most of that and divest the others.
So when they do that, but the issue that the concern right is he's not really divesting because he's not getting anything back, right? He's just giving it up. He's just saying, here, government, take my stuff.
Nationalize it.
So once that happens, though, like now all of a sudden, whatever, Jeff Bezos give up whatever percentage, I have no idea. For the sake of argument, it's 50%. I don't know what that number. Sake of argument, 50%. He gives up 50% of Amazon. Who gets it? Like, how do we sell it? Like, how is it how is that nationalized?
Well, there's co-ops. Could turn it into an employee cooperative.
So the employees would get it all.
Could. I mean, there are various options. Could, if it's a strategic industry, such as Raytheon, a defense contractor, nationalize the thing like, you know, like Russia does.
Gotcha. So nationalizing or taking and giving to the employees. That will be the answer to
those
any
are
of
a
the
couple of
leaders.
ways to go, yeah.
What happens if it is
you know, as long as the buyers aren't billionaires themselves.
Well, that was my other question. What about if it's foreign owned right now? So I'm sure a Russian oligarch would be very happy, or a Chinese oligarch would be very happy to buy 50% of Amazon. I'm sure they would love to buy 50% of Amazon. Yeah. You're okay with that?
I am in favor. I mentioned co-ops because that's a more democratic form of corporate management.
I do prefer co-ops. I agree. I prefer
The
co-ops. Absolutely.
workers, I favor unions. Maybe libertarians and certainly Republicans don't agree with that. But I favor decentralizing management and control. So if and I have also proposed, some of these huge corporations like Twitter and Facebook should be broken up, and we don't have enough media corporations either.
That's true for sure. Yeah.
There's been a trend, I think, since Bill Clinton,
Since the 80s, right?
of concentration of media. That's extremely dangerous because you get uniformity. You don't get the differences of opinion. And there
But
are
you also get, you also get cartel systems,
yeah,
right? You get oligarchies and cartel systems,
that's
right?
right.
You get the whole thing. Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
So then why wouldn't we, with that logic, why wouldn't we try to make it to where we have more billionaires versus chopping? Why wouldn't we want to make more Davids to fight the Goliaths versus chopping down the Goliaths? Did that make sense or no? I don't know if that made sense. I was trying to make an analogy. I don't know if it worked.
Distribution is so concentrated in the upper 1%,
This is true.
1/10 of 1%, that it's almost at the point of societal collapse. Then when you add in these factors like foreign policies that, sanction everybody and we get sanctioned back. Right now we're sanctioning ourselves. So that's going to lead to inflation and shortages.
That's true.
So there are a lot of problems, we have a long way to go. But I am basically in favor of decentralizing and decreasing the power of the capitalist class, the ruling elite, the military industrial intelligence media complex.
I love the air quotes on intelligence. I love that.
Yes. Breaking up these huge concentrations of power, because we're not free right now. We have no real functioning democracy. Voting means almost nothing.
Agreed. Very hard to. I get it. I'm with you. Let me grab a couple comments. Dave says in New Jersey in 2016, 1 billionaire left, and New Jersey's revenue went down. That happened in New York too. Also true. Yes.
Okay,
and that's people's worry about that. Well, the problem that we're worried about with that is when we have such, yes, we have massive bloated budgets here in the East Coast for sure. I'm sure you have some in the Midwest too, but we have massive. I mean, New York State's budget, only 19 countries and California have a higher budget than New York. And in fact, New York State per capita, if you don't count Alaska, who literally writes a check to the people from their oil fund, not counting Alaska, we spend the most per capita per person in New York State. So if we start losing billionaires, we're going to have a problem. Like, it's going to affect the services that people get. I think that is Dave's worry. Does that make sense?
Okay, right. Well, we don't have a lot of billionaires in Kentucky, and the services that people get are being slashed by Republicans in the legislature. There are many ways to slash services. And
but that's not what we want, is it? Don't we want to provide? Don't we want to still provide services to people?
Yeah.
But don't we want to do it in a better way, a way that where local people and communities, as you talked about, localization. Don't we want to have more localization and communities supporting people?
Right. And I don't know New York State at all.
Of course.
I'm
don't expect you
how
to.
much corruption there is. How much of that government spending is wasted?
Tons of it.
Okay, well.
Tons of it. Yes.
That part of it, what it's spent on.
Tons of it. Yes, absolutely. So James goes on and says, the fair tax is a simple concept. I like the idea. And then Dave goes on to say, how about reforming the tax code where people aren't chasing loopholes? And this is a common libertarian, most libertarians obviously don't want taxation, right? That's what libertarians don't want at all, obviously. But most libertarians will compromise with a fair tax, if that makes any sense. We'll go, you know what?
Yeah.
We don't like taxation.
Right.
Give us a fair tax and we'll shut up for now. That's basically what we think.
Is capital gain treated the same as earned
100%.
income?
Everything's the same.
The same. Well, I think that idea has some merit.
Look at that. We found a way to agree on taxation. Look at that.
We can look at that some more.
There we go. I like that. It's very good. So Brian goes on to say, I would like our government to abandon being the world's policeman.
Yes.
In favor of becoming the world's arms supplier. I'm not sure I'd want to go there, but okay, I see where you're going. Stop funding arms research. Let them develop their own and sell to whoever they wish without the government's permission. Let the free market work. Well, Brian's all about selling guns and bullets to people. So
well,
I like the first part, Brian. That part was good.
Right now, Russian weapons are performing better than ours. So
is that true?
We could follow that recommendation from your listener and lose the market. And to me, that wouldn't be bad. I would like to see a whole lot less arms production in this country.
Yeah, my chat is all about fair tax. That's all they're saying. I said again, Alexander, if you want to get more money to rich people, simplify the tax code. Boom, boom, boom. Everyone's talking about it. So I think
there's something there that should be considered very, very strongly.
There we go. So let's see here if I can go down here real fast. Someone's about the land value tax. Do you have an opinion on that at all? Matthew brings this up. He says Milton Friedman called the land value tax the last bad tax, but it has a lot of great principles. I don't know.
I listened.
I don't know if that's true or not. Sorry.
I think he's one of the most important.
We lost him again. I'm sure he'll come back. So yes. Alexander goes on. Why do so many trash billionaires like they have no value aren't human beings? I'm a college student. I pay for school, work 2 jobs. Doesn't bother me how much money anybody has but myself. It's a valid point, right? I think it's very easy to beat up the rich guy or rich gal. I think it's very simple to do so. Point the finger and say it's his fault. I think it's true. And to be forward, politics is emotional, Alexander, and it feels wrong that a person has so much. It feels bad. Whether it really is bad or not, politics is emotional. So I think there is a piece of that we have to recognize that it actually is an emotional piece. I do want to say, if you like what we're doing right now, if you're enjoying this, then do me a favor. Subscribe, if you would, to the Sharp Way YouTube. I am asking specifically to subscribe and click that button specifically for the Sharp Way YouTube. Why? Coming up here in January, we're going to be shifting a lot of stuff only to the Sharp Way properties. So if you can, please pop on over there and like the Sharp Way YouTube page. It's very helpful for me. I need to get it up and running so I can get more people on it, so I can get past the algorithms, all those things. So please work on that. If you would today, I would appreciate it tremendously to specifically that. And of course, if you haven't retweeted yet on Twitter, if you're watching on Twitter, please retweet on Twitter and let people know what we're doing here. It really does matter. Jeff, are you there?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you.
Yeah, right. So I have trouble with my camera. I think I should get a better computer or whatever. Better.
I think I've lost him again. I'll be pulling him back in a second. Let me grab some more of your comments if I could. Let me grab a couple of these if I could. There we go. Are you back there, Jeff?
I'm here, audio.
Okay,
Sorry.
Great.
Sorry.
No worries. It is what it is. I want to walk down one more road with you. I tried to. I hope I was fair in everything that you were talking about. But the last piece I want to bring up, if I could, is you want to impeach both Biden and you want to impeach the Supreme Court justices who voted against or to repeal basically Roe.
Yeah.
So
yeah, two different issues.
Yes, which seem it doesn't it makes most people's head explode because it's like you don't like both sides, right? And most people would agree with one of them and not the other. Now, your reason for Biden, you mentioned because he's reckless, specifically with China and Russia. So help me with that one. Why that?
Well, some would say that we're already in World War III. It's already started sometime between 2014 and today in Europe. We are, I think, indisputably now involved in a proxy war, NATO and the US on one side and the Ukrainian puppet government against Russia. We are fighting a war with Russia right now. And that's extremely dangerous. So I think
so. This kind of goes back to your World War III piece. This goes back to that.
Yeah, and then with China, I've also proposed that any U.S. senator or representative who has visited China in the past year should be prosecuted under the Logan Act of 1799. Which says that individuals may not negotiate with other countries. We have Nancy Pelosi going over there, and my former opponent there, Andy Barr from Kentucky, going over to Taiwan and saying, we will support you if you're attacked, blah, blah, blah. That's not the official U.S. policy since 1979. So they should be prosecuted by the U.S. Attorney General. And they can spend 3 years in prison.
Wow. Okay. No, it's fine.
But
okay.
You know, Taiwan is the reddest of red lines for China. They will never. They will never agree that Taiwan should be an independent country, or even worse, allied with the United States, a hostile foreign power. Never going to happen. And Taiwan is close to China. It's very far from the U.S. We have no chance. If it becomes a military conflict, China will win it. They also have Russia to help.
What I've been thinking about Taiwan is my gut says, if I have to guess what's going to happen, and I'm not an expert here, but just my gut, knowing humans, is that within 10 or 20 years, whatever's the right number, Taiwan, I think, is probably going to. I think Taiwan is probably going to wind up somehow agreeing to be some type of part of China via treaty in some way, right?
Yeah, like something like Hong Kong. I think you're right. Something like that is going to happen, regardless of what Nancy Pelosi thinks about it. Now, on the other issue, impeaching the 6 so-called...
You actually called them, if I remember right, you called them women haters?
Yeah, women hating... partisan Republican hacks. They were not acting as justices when they overturned Roe versus Wade, a decision of 1973.
So you're saying that this was a political play?
Totally political.
It seems to have hurt the Republicans.
I read the majority opinions. I read the brilliant dissent by the 3 good justices.
Okay.
And the majority opinion was, we are overturning Roe versus Wade because we have the votes. That's it. Pure political.
Wow.
We never liked it. We have the votes now. It's gone. That was their so-called legal reasoning. The dissent, brilliantly picked that apart. So I think we would do much better as a country if we went with the 3 good justices for a few years, gradually added some more good ones, and got rid of the 6 partisan hacks. If they make decisions based on political majority.
I feel like, though, right, if this was a political move by the judges, what a terrible move. I mean, I think it affected the elections this year, don't you?
Yeah, somewhat. Yeah. In Kentucky, there was a constitutional amendment proposed, Amendment 2, that would have made it easier to make all abortions illegal in Kentucky with no exceptions. In Kansas, that was defeated by a large majority. Here in Kentucky, it was like 52 to 48%, much closer, but it
Mhm.
was still defeated. Yeah, I think it should affect every election from now on until the Republicans abandon their anti-woman position. There are abortions that are medically necessary, and women are going to die if the right to life movement gets its way.
Do you think there's any real chance of that happening? I feel like
Mhm.
I feel like this did is it made people who actually didn't care much about abortion at all pick a side. Where prior to this, I think the average American didn't care about it. It wasn't a thing. It was whatever it was in their state, and they just moved on, and they
Mhm.
assumed that Roe would be the law of the land forever, and they didn't really care about it. They walked about their life. I think this made people pick sides.
Well, is that good or bad? I mean, it did
I don't
make them
know.
pick side and put the issue right before us on the ballot. But, you know, the right to life movement is not rational. They've always been a Republican, right-wing, dirty trick. We have Planned Parenthood, which has cared for the last 50 years about women's health, about birth control, about preventing unwanted pregnancies. And on the other side, we have a bunch of fundamentalist Christians who want women back in the home, not in the workplace, under the control of men. Chris Hedges, the great
You really
author.
think? Hold on. You really think that the average Republican believes that?
I think that the leaders of the right to life movement are basically want white men to be in control.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you think
Chris
the leadership
Hedges
does?
Yeah, Chris Hedges has written about fundamentalist, mega churches, and his book is called American Fascists:
Mm-hmm.
The Christian Right and the War on America. That's the subtitle. I recommend it. It shows these people are not interested in the Constitution. They want to replace the Constitution by the Ten Commandments. And they're not.
Let's assume for a moment. Let's assume that you're correct,
Okay.
and that they would like to make white men run everything, and they want women to be basically back in the kitchen, if not in reality, at least figuratively, if not actually. Assuming that's true, is that even close to possible with today's American society? I mean, women in America today are doing better than they've ever done. And in fact, in the younger ages, they're doing better than men in any way that you want to measure that, whether that's through education, income, wealth, power, voting power. Younger women under 30 are now doing better than men in every way you want to measure it.
Okay.
Is that even a thing, or is this like
it's certainly
some dying
possible
thing they're gonna tell me, please?
It doesn't take a majority. The Nazi Party in Germany in the 1930s never got a majority of the vote. They had, I don't know, 30, 35%.
About 35%.
And they were determined. They were not interested in democracy, and they turned the entire country into a fascist dictatorship. It could happen here.
So you were actually concerned about that? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't feel concerned about that at all. I mean, and the reason why I say it is most of the people who I know who are the average everyday Republican, I know many average everyday Republicans, they wouldn't agree with that at all. They wouldn't agree at all. So I feel like the body politic, while there may be individual people who are leaders who believe what, there may be individual people at the top who believe what you feel. I feel like they don't really, that the people on they have to be tricked, if that makes any sense. They would all have to be tricked or duped into believing that this is the thing. And I don't feel like that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe next year you'll be showing me that I'm wrong.
Read American Fascist book by Chris Hedges and a lot of articles he's written, especially around the time when Roe versus Wade was overturned. he's eloquent on it. He has a doctor of divinity. And
well, let me make a shift if I could.
okay.
What about the idea that Democrats want the same thing, just a different religion? In that Democrats would like to, in many ways, get rid of the First Amendment, in many ways, get rid of the Second Amendment, if not totally, in many ways, get rid of the Fourth and Sixth Amendment, that they would probably want to get rid of a bunch of things in the Constitution also. Is that not a fair statement?
There's an element of truth to it, especially when you look at all of the members of the U.S. House and Senate today who are hauling the chief executives of these social media companies into hearings and asking them, why aren't you censoring more? Why?
Yes.
You know, that I think is a terrible idea. And I'm ashamed members of my party are undermining the First Amendment that way. Censorship is bad. I'm virtually completely against it. You know, unless they're doing something that's already against the law, like, I don't know, whatever exceptions there are.
Yeah, I get that. Look, if I'm trying to hurt somebody or threatening somebody, or going to create a victim,
there you go.
100%. Yep.
Threatening somebody by, you know, posting things on Twitter. Yeah. So what we need is more debate. I'm in favor of all of these social media platforms unbanning everybody. And if there's some Nazis that get on there, I mean, there are anyway, but
it's true.
Debate them.
Right.
Show, you know, ask, well, you know, what kind of society would we have if we did what you say? And most Americans would not find it very appealing. So debate them, don't censor them.
I like it. So Grace says, thanks for interviewing guests from other parties, Larry. The LP can't live in a vacuum at times. Can live in a vacuum at times. Thanks for reaching out. Oh, I appreciate that. That's nice. Thank you. So people like this. You have some fans here, Jeff. You're doing something right.
Yeah.
Whatever you're doing, it's working.
Yeah. In Kentucky, I've always gotten along well with libertarians, you know, for years.
There we go.
We can talk about things. We can talk about real issues. I've never gotten along with Mitch McConnell Republicans.
Yes, I can imagine.
You know, I spent 1 year, 2020, running as a Republican in the primary for U.S. House, and it was kind of tough. You know, I was in this room with a bunch of people. Well, one example. The person up on the stage said, who here likes Trump? I was the only one who didn't raise my hand.
There we go.
Right?
Yes.
But so in a Democratic Party meeting, who here likes Biden? I would have also been the only one.
Yes, absolutely. You were the bad guy either way, Jeff. Either way, you're the bad guy. It doesn't matter.
They're both war criminals.
Yes.
They're both endangering our national security.
Let me bring up a quote that, I'm sorry, a comment from Dave, and it's an important one, I think. He says, what if Taiwan doesn't want to be like Hong Kong? And I'll tell you my view on this. I think at one point, Taiwan's going to have to accept either they're going to be bombed and devastated by a Chinese land war, which will devastate the island. I mean, there'll be billions of dollars in damage and probably millions of dead people. That's option one. Or they will somehow negotiate to have a decent answer to survive in a Chinese world. That's what my gut says. Do you think I'm right on that, Jeff, or no?
I think you're right. Also, people overlook that there are, you know, probably the majority of people in Taiwan like the status quo, where you know, things are just going along. Nobody's raising the issue. And China has said that by 2049, we want Taiwan reintegrated into China. That's a pretty long way away. And here we have Americans trying to sharpen the issue and say, no, independence right now. Well, the president recently had to resign of Taiwan, resign as not the president, but as the head of her party. So I hope she resigns as president. She's a kind of independence Taiwan leader.
And that's scary for us.
Well, it's dangerous.
Yes.
It
Dangerous,
raises
yes.
tension.
Yep.
I think unnecessarily. I mean, just wait till 2049 and deal with it then,
Yeah. You get it.
or have a
Sam
gradual
says,
process.
Sam says, yes, I've been enjoying the discussion as well. Thank you, Jeff. There we go.
Thank you for the great questions.
There we go. Matthew says he's spot on about free speech. Better to engage bad ideas. Absolutely, yes. So I think with that, Jeff, is there anything that I should have covered that I didn't? I tried to cover everything. Did I miss anything?
Well, I didn't get to say that having been a member of both parties and run for office, I think both parties are 100% corrupt.
Yes.
They rig their own primaries.
Yep.
And that's illegal in Kentucky anyway. Maybe it's not illegal nationally when, for example, I think Hillary Clinton rigged the primary in 2016 against Bernie Sanders.
Yep.
Maybe it's legal nationally.
Yep.
In Kentucky, it isn't. There's a law that says you can't rig your own primary. So they're corrupt.
Yep.
They only care about campaign contributions, money and power.
100%. So let me ask the one question I'm going to brought up, and they probably don't understand this. So let me say it, and you can correct me here. A lot of people are noticing that your platform is about national. You've been talking about national, yet you're running for governor now.
Mm-hmm.
So why are you having so much national stuff when you're now running for governor? Can you please cover that?
Yeah, pretty quickly. Two reasons. One, the national and international affairs affect the economy of the United States and Kentucky very directly. I mentioned sanctions. They're all backfiring. They're all counterproductive. And two, I worked for state government in the Energy and Environment Cabinet for 15 years. And I know how state government works. I know I could have done a better job with the COVID situation than the Democrat Andy Beshear did. I would never have recommended that anyone get injected with an mRNA, brand new, developed in a hurry, untested, so-called vaccine. I would have worked with the Republican legislature to try to make mRNA potions illegal.
But hold on, I want to stay on the part though, right? So, but why? I get what you're saying nationally, but now you're running for governor though.
Yeah. This is a governor issue. Andy Beshear mishandled the COVID situation very badly, I think, like a lot of Democratic governors.
So does that mean you're going to be redoing your website for a governor website, or no?
I am, of course. I'm going to totally redo it.
All right. So for those of you who want to follow him, it's at young4ky.com, or you can follow Jeff at Jeff Young4ky, and that's Jeff G. If you're listening, GEOFF. Just so you're aware, it is GEOFF, not GEFF or JEFF. So you can check him out there. Jeff, I want to say thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And everybody else who's watching, thank you. Yes, everyone else who's been watching, thank you so much for watching and listening. I'll be back on again tomorrow.